Hello everyone, you're welcome to the Yaira Show. As usual, I come your way with an exciting episode and a dose of inspiration. On this episode, my guest talks about personal development and about the creative space. If you're looking for an interesting conversation, then watch this episode to the end. Okay. Hello Julia.
Hi, Yaira.
Thank you so much for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. So, why did you accept my invitation to be on my show?
Honestly, I didn't think much of it. Or maybe I did. Really, I was thinking about what it was you wanted me to talk about, and at some point, it just felt, okay, let me just go, because I am a storyteller, and so if there's a way to inspire someone or even just reintroduce myself into the market, that is something I've been wanting to do. It's an opportunity for me, an opportunity for you as well.
Nice, thank you. So let's talk about you. Who is Julia?
So I like to think of myself as a very passionate person, someone who speaks for people. As my daddy would usually call me a pocket lawyer. From childhood, I would fight for people, I would fight for myself. And so I find that I have grown with that value, and wherever I find myself, I'm the person to speak for, advocate for them, and very particularly within the creative space. I think I've been doing something within the creative space that, for me, empowers a lot of people to tell their story.
So you mentioned that you're a passionate person and then you want to speak for people, and it's something that has been with you since childhood. So I wanted to talk about your childhood. Is it that you had an experience that resulted in who you are today? Or how was it like for you?
The irony of this is that growing up, I was a timid girl.
Surprising.
Very timid.
Very shocking.
And shy.
I'm surprised.
Recently, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and then we're talking about how bubbly and social I am, and I'm like, this was not me.
When did you change? I feel like I'm curious about that. Let's finish the childhood part and then we come to that.
So, as a child, I lived with my auntie, who I'm an Adventist, if I didn't tell you. Okay. So as an Adventist, you know how strict home is. My parents actually are not, I don't know if they were strict, but others thought they were strict, especially my dad, but he wasn't a strict dad or guy to me. But at home with my parents, it was a bit easy because they were more understanding and cool with me. Okay. And so I remember from high school, I was that girl before high school, I lived with my aunt and then a husband who is an Adventist pastor. So you're always home, you go to church Wednesdays, Fridays, and then Saturdays. Yes, it was a ritual. I had nowhere to go. I didn't even own a trousers. No, I had skirts, dresses.
It was SHS.
Not SHS, in junior high. I lived with them when I was in junior high. So it was high school, I came back home. So this is pre-junior, senior high conversation. Yeah. So with them, I was that strict girl, and there was a very terrible experience that I had whereby I was accused of having a relationship with a primary teacher. I could never forgive myself. I was really upset by that particular accusation, and I sort of had to be that girl who did not want what they had said about me be true, and so I had to, do away with men, not have anything to do with them. For a while, I thought I hated men. I didn't have anything to do with them until high school. When I came back to Accra, I went to Wesley Grammar. I remember if there were a few men over here, I'll just walk past them, or I'll just find another route because I didn't want to pass in front of them. So I would say that having gone through that situation and also being exposed after high school, because I started working and I got to understand the importance of speaking out and then, taking a place in certain societies or communities, I needed to get out of my shell, because everywhere you would go, there's the popular phrase about your comfort zone. So every day I am breaking out of my cocoon or comfort zone. So it's always been a call for me to get out of where I used to be, my shell, my mentality. And so I would think that that experience somehow changed this person and made her understand that she needed to do better and she needed to change things in order to get whatever that she wanted. So
you really had an interesting childhood experience.
yeah,
And
it's quite a lot.
yeah, very, very interesting. So have you found yourself in situations where you have empowered people to speak for themselves, or you've actually spoken for people to make sure that they are also confident?
As much as possible, I do that everywhere I find myself, at the workplace, at home, at school, even, everyday encounter in the streets anywhere. Very importantly, I remember speaking for my mother, a conversation I do not want to bring out, but my mother is that person. Oh yeah, my forget to and everything. And I'll just no, you don't do that. Don't speak to her like that or something. I'll just call those people out and let things be. And I think in very little ways we do that, but we think it's not as grand, and so you have not advocated for someone. But just asking questions to get clarity is a way of speaking out. Because if you had not asked the question, the other person would have done something wrong, and then perhaps they would be punished, or there would be a lot of things. So for me, it's as simple as just asking a question, getting clarity. Yeah.
But I feel with our society and in the African homes and culture, doing that is seen as just being disrespectful.
There are two sides. I mean, yeah, some people, so it's really about the delivery.
Yeah.
Other times too, it's just about the other person's ego. So knowing the other person, knowing what's at hand, you should just find the right way to deliver the information.
Okay.
So, or to ask the question. But the question has got to be asked if it's got to be asked. If I'm asking a question and you think I'm disrespectful,
that's on to you.
Okay.
So if there's someone watching the show right now and the person has that challenge of finding it hard to speak for himself or herself and always keeps things to himself, like example you gave, let's give to God, I don't want to talk, I don't want any arguments, always saying that maybe that's the best way for peace to prevail. What advice would you give to such a person?
It's important to understand that your growth is really tied to your understanding of the entire ecosystem and knowing your place in wherever space you find yourself. So if you know your space or your place and you're not able to communicate it, communication is really key in everything that we do. So it can be hard, but strategize, and in the thick of situations or in the middle of a heated conversation, you may want to just calm things down, lock yourself up, or just leave the space and then think about the repercussions, whether you do this or that, what will happen, and come back. You don't have an answer. You don't have to have an answer right there. You could just go and come back, decide, and then find the right thing to say. But you have to say something.
Say something.
Because it's really tied to your,
your worth.
Yeah,
because you mentioned something about knowing who you are and your place in the ecosystem, and I feel like there are a lot of people who do not value themselves as they are supposed to, and that has affected their confidence. You were someone who was seen, I'll not say you were timid, I'll say you were seen because it was inside, it just had to come out. Okay. You were seen as someone who was timid, and then situations brought out the bubbly person, the one who is always ready to speak on behalf of people. There's someone out there who is still struggling to being the person, I'm timid. So people are actually taking advantage of such people. Like, I want you to speak to such people for me. What would you tell them? Because you have been on that phase before, and then you've moved to the other side. So you know the benefits, you know the importance of being confident, not looking down on yourself, and knowing your worth.
Truth be told, you don't just get up and change. And very importantly, we need to also acknowledge the system that we find ourselves. It's Africa, it's Ghana. The system sort of, socializes you in a way that you have to call yourself. You need to say a lot of mepachos and
everything. Please, thank you. Yes. Okay, please.
Okay, please. Okay, bye. It's just a lot of okays and pleases. So having understood that, we need to also give people some grace. It would take time. And then another important factor is realizing that you have a problem. If you don't see that as a problem to be solved, but is me, I'm like this, so that's how I will be forever. Yeah, that's also not progressive. And then also deciding it's something you need to embark on actively is a good step. And then doing so, you are able to get out of the situation, or at least find help or find the right solutions to the problem. So if you don't recognize it, or you internalize it as a character of yours that doesn't need change, then you won't get change.
Thank you so much for the things you've touched on, because it's very important.
Yeah.
And I really like the highlight about recognizing and acknowledging that it's actually a problem, because you can't say that's who you are when people are taking advantage of you. If you are timid and you are able to speak up when they need be, then that's fine.
That's
no one is
also
taking.
fine.
But then people are taking advantage of you, and then you say you are timid.
But do they recognize that people are taking advantage of them?
No, that's
So yeah.
I'm hoping there's anyone who is in that situation and watches this conversation is able to recognize that and know the things to do to change. That's why I asked that question, so that you can highlight more on that. So, okay, you want to say something?
Yeah, but how do you recognize? So if the bigger question or bigger problem is that they don't recognize the problems, then they have to be exposed to understand some of these things. Let's take, for example, someone who's working with company A, and company A is paying her, let's say, 1,005.
Let's go there.
And then they realize that, and then somehow through conversations with, say, an AMA somewhere, they realize that the same role in company B is giving them 5,000. And you've seen this, and you think, and you're okay with it. What I said was that they had not recognized their problem. So then the exposure or a conversation is something that is also needed. Whereas even if the person does not have a conversation, at least a learned person or someone who constantly goes out to learn or to find out things will eventually find certain things about themselves that is not good, or actively goes out to ask questions about themselves. So to recognize problems, you have to actively ask questions, or you have to also self-reflect, and then you can find the problems, then you can, map out,
and then you know your
the
solutions.
solutions.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad we touched on this topic. I believe that it will help someone out there. Let's talk about your career.
Okay.
What inspires you on a daily in your career journey? You're creative.
Okay, so as someone who works within an agency or an advertising agency, it's always problem solving. Okay. It's always strategizing, finding, helping clients solve problems, and then where the problems are directly connected to their audience, their customers, or those stakeholders. And so for me, I like projects that are people touched or people based. Things that connect to the audience, that actually help them grow. In our industry, we have clients who just want the numbers. Some people want to grow their following 200, following 2 million and all of that. They want 3 million impressions. Those are important numbers because they also direct to the people. So what inspires me is really things that promote creativity, and then things that also affect the next person in a way that it would not have if you had not done it. Really, I'm people-based. If it's going to impact the next person,
you're going to jump on it. Before reaching out to you, even in earlier conversations, I realized that you mentioned how you're about personal development, and I didn't see that in right now. What inspires you on a daily? Looking out for people, helping them grow, and then you're also about building communities. Can you tell us more about that journey?
Okay. So for 7 years, I've worked within the accounts or the advertising agency as an accounts manager, where what that means is that a person who sort of liaises with the client or liaises between the client and the agency. If a client, say MTN, comes to me and says that they need a TVC, as an accounts manager, I need to liaise with the will the agency
You're using a lot of technical words, but
which one?
I had TVC. Please explain.
Television commercial.
Okay, thank you.
So, so you're just you're like a project manager, more or less. So you ensure that all that they need is done. You communicate it to the team. They get it done correctly. You send it back, reporting, all of that. And so, for someone who has worked within the agency for 7 years, I have learned the importance of understanding clients so much so that you can sell their product or services to the next person so easily. And you're only able to do that if you immerse yourself in the work. And while doing so, you're also building character. You're also understanding consumer insights, knowing what customers really want, and then a lot of all of those things. So it's a bit technical because you need to hit it and get the right people to buy or be interested in your product. I see that as human beings, we are constantly evolving, we are constantly growing. Yes. And then also the ecosystem as we find it is also coming up with different things. ChatGPT was, we didn't know about this in 2-3 years ago. But now there are very different and new technologies that are helping us work. And so as an individual who wants to grow, you need to place value onto yourself so the next person can see you. And it's something that I've been so passionate about because, believe you me, growing up, being that timid girl and being this girl now, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of, analyzing things and also developing myself every day. When I finished school, I failed my maths.
That subject.
I failed maths. And so right after school, I started work as a salesperson, and I had a Lebanese man as my boss. And and then he would come to the office from time to, not from every day he comes, there's a problem. Yeah, Julia, what are you doing? You should hear his voice. And he's always making sounds about certain things. And really, it was my first job, and I did a good job at it. I remember wanting to leave so bad because this is not what I wanted to do. So for me, one powerful thing that I would forever hold dear is the fact that I know when it is to move on. Like, I just know it is time for me to move on to something because I like to challenge myself. I thrive on challenges. So, which is why personal development is something that I would always preach to other people. So 2013, my first job was a sales girl, and I was getting 300 cedis. It was a lot of money.
Then, yes, definitely. Now in the pure water.
Hey, rich man.
Our economy makes it so.
Yes. While I was there was this person that came by and then was trying to poach me to work for him. It was actually a movie or a film industry. Yes. So
a lot going on.
It was. I need to say this. I find that Miss Malaika also was quite instrumental to my growth. This is because at the time when I was watching it, I would see these young girls, coming in there all confident, talking about their project. I like the fact that the entire show was connected to a project. So when you come, it's not be a queen and leave, but be a queen and then do something for the community. So that was the first time I realized, hey, so we have to there's something to do or to help someone. So I would commend the show organizers. But this is something that did quite a lot for someone like me. I even wanted to audition at some points, but I was timid then, so I couldn't have gone. And I didn't have any of those flashy clothes and heels to go and model and do that. I couldn't have done it, so I did not do it. So yeah, this is just to say that Miss Malaika did inspire me at some point. All of these things were very important things that I saw growing up. And then Miss Malaika, the same thing, also inspired in me the interest to write, and then the entire media space. Like I wanted to understand how media works. How are they, like, how do they get there? Where do they go and do the auditions? All of those questions. I like asking questions. So I created a website, and then I'll put things there. From time to time, I'll go and pay some one CD and then go to the cafe. So that was also another thing, because of the exposure I got from TV or Miss Malaka and all of these other shows that I watch.
So we'll be about wrapping up. And my final question to you will be, what advice would you have for people who want to venture into the creative space? I mean, you've had an interesting journey from sales to having to take courses on your own and working with an advertisement company and all of that. So what advice would you have for anyone who wants to venture?
So the thing with this space is you need to be ready. Otherwise, you're going to fail eventually.
You have to be ready.
You need to be ready.
When you say ready, how do you mean?
Physically, mentally. You know, there's this, sometimes you have this epiphany, you're like, I'm done with this, or no, I really want to get into it. It has to be like that somehow before you can venture into it.
Otherwise, want to make it in the space.
And because it's not as lucrative. Creatives are suffering. They're not getting recognition. They're not even getting funding or any sort of opportunities down here as compared to other people. So even in the advertising space, creatives are always working overtime and not within the space that they are in order to sort of fend for themselves, because where they are not given enough payments to sort of, help them grow in any space. And so you just have to be ready and follow the passion, like people will say cliche, but it's really the truth.
It's really, I love that.
There's really not so much to say about
I know. I just love, we're wrapping and ending on this note. Follow the passion and be ready. And that's it. Because I feel like when people hear these things, they think it's cliche. Like, start, be ready, follow the passion. But it's actually not, and I'm glad we've touched on it. Thank you so much for being on the show. I've enjoyed my conversation with you. I wish we could continue. Honestly, I'll probably have you again if you accept my invitation. And then we'll have another inspiring conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you too.
Pleasure.